Okay, good to see everybody. How you doing? Woo!
Yeah.
Chilling.
Medium.
Okay.
Medium.
You feeling mid? Feeling mid?
Medium rare.
Medium rare.
All right, guys. It's been a
I'm
long
peaking. I'm
time.
peaking at negative 8,000. That's how I'm doing.
Welcome back, guys. It's good to see everyone. It's been a really long time. We took a big break. Theraplizards signing in. Going by a new name right now. Going by the Boom Bap Book Club. Kind of makes more sense than Rap Lizards, don't you think? Anyway,
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Same bullshit, new name. But we just wanted to, touch base. We recorded this episode. How long ago, D? Like a year ago?
A year plus, man. It's been a while.
Over a year ago, we
That's
recorded.
The thing about classic rap albums, timeless.
Timeless, absolutely.
Yeah, we recorded this in September 2021, just FYI.
Wow.
And the reason we recorded it then is because at that point, that was... Ben, you want to give the backstory?
Sure. Wow, it's been that long. So we picked this album to discuss, review, go over in September of 2021 when De La Soul announced that they finally have ownership of their catalog of music, and they're gonna release, and they said coming by winter, right? By like Christmas time in 2021. So in excitement, we all had most of their discography. I had all of it. So we chose Stakes is High, my favorite De La Soul album. And then we're like, we're gonna hold it. We're gonna hold this episode. We're gonna keep it in the chamber, and then as soon as it gets released, we're gonna have this to release with it for everyone to listen along. And that was a plan. It was a plan. I don't know if it was a good plan, because
It was a great plan. It still is a great plan.
The best plan.
Here we are. De La is on the cusp of releasing their catalog. This will probably get released the day or a few days around when the catalog gets released on Spotify and all streaming platforms. And we just wanted to really talk because we got some really devastating news, and if we recorded this episode now, we would spend a long time, giving Trugoy the Dove, Dave, his flowers. And I don't know about you guys, I had a good long cry when I found out. But we just wanted to, really send him off right. He was amazing, and feels kind of crazy that we're about to play an episode about this group, but there's no talk of, rest in peace, Dave. So we're doing it now.
I'm actually, just to bring it back up to like the sort of positives, like we did record this thing a while ago. So I, as a fan of the Theraplizards, aka Boom Bap Book Club, I'm actually looking forward to listening to this episode, and I can't wait to see what we got for you guys, because if I remember correctly, this was among. I mean, look, pulling the curtain back. Like after each record, we always say, look, that was one of our best episodes, and the reason is because like we love that we do this for ourselves and for our listeners. But I am one of our listeners, so I'm actually excited to listen to this too. So I hope you guys enjoy this upcoming episode, and rest in peace to Dave Trugoy, plug 2.
Absolutely. And it's I'll shout Gary out real quick. When we recorded this episode, I don't know if you remember this, Gary, but you didn't know that this was the album we were going to review. And you hadn't listened to it in like probably a year or two. And yet you remembered the whole album by heart, and you were like mentioning lines from skits and stuff. And I told you it was like the famous LSD no-hitter by Doc, what's his name, D?
Doc Ellis.
Doc Ellis. So, do you remember
that was your Doc Ellis moment? Yeah, Gary. Do you remember recording this? Do you remember?
Well, no, that's the thing. It's going to be. I look forward to listening to it also because I remember none of it. Just remember really none of it. So it's all news to me, and I promise that I didn't steal Gary's body, and I'm not an alien.
Okay. Okay, Gary. Thank you. Oh, I missed you guys. We took a nice long break. Some of us had babies. Other of us got our wives pregnant. Other of us got married. Have we recorded since you got married, Nate? I don't even know.
No, this is a new Nate.
Actually, guys, Gary's son wasn't even born when we recorded this. You realize that?
Oh my god.
So it's been a while.
We recorded this with no children at all.
The beauty of what we do is, like, obviously we have full-time jobs aside from this, but we record a lot. So we recorded a lot, so we got some great episodes coming up. This, what
do we got, man?
So you're about to hear an episode all about Stakes is High, one of our collective favorites. After that, we have an amazing episode about Gangstar Moment of Truth, another just boom bap classic. Then we got Jay-Z's Black Album. We really go in on that one. And I think the last one recorded that we have coming up would be Run the Jewels Part 1.
Yep.
So real fun time. And we got plenty of content coming your way. So, we really just wanted to say rest in peace to Dave. One of the voices in my head constantly since I discovered De La Soul. We talk mainly about Stakes is High on this episode you're about to hear, but if you're just kind of hearing about De La Soul through the news of Dave's passing, when their catalog is released, every single one of their albums is so good. I heard Mos Def call them the Steely Dan of hip hop, and I'd be keen to agree. Just perfect album after perfect album, studio studs, amazing creative, slick, jazzy, just the best music. I love De La Soul so much, and we're really missing Dave right now, but we're glad to be back. So I hope you guys enjoy. You guys got anything else to say?
Nah, just enjoy, and Strong Island.
Yeah,
Strong Island, and I think Mos Def is right.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything for you, Ben. Steely, comparing it to Steely.
I know. It was a big mistake mentioning Steely Dan in front of Gary. Okay. Well,
I enjoy the episode, and we'll also see you on the next one. Peace.
See you soon.
Peace.
It's about the degradation of hip hop to that point, and like them being worried of the coming changes that did end up happening, and yeah, exactly. And that's also like, so Stakes is High, yes, for them it meant something, but also in a broader hip hop term, yeah.
All right, welcome back to the Rap Lizards, everybody. Good to be here. Before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor. This week's episode is brought to you by Benny's Boigas and Burritos. Yes. Benny's got the best boigas in Brooklyn, bro. And the burritos are pretty good too. At Benny's Boigas, we got it all. Soups, salads, mozzarella sticks, dartboards, Simpsons arcade game, and the decor is timeless Brooklyn style. Dirty floors, black and white autograph photos with all of your favorite celebrities. We got Jerry Seinfeld, John Turturro, Jimmy Smits, the guy who plays Frank in Scarface, and David Lee Roth, to name a few. Come to Benny's Boigas, and we bet you never bit into a better boiga, bro.
You know what? Yeah, we need to have a barbecue with nothing but Benny's Boigas and chili. You forgot about the chili. I never actually had a Benny's burrito.
What's
up with that?
This is a different thing. This is just our sponsor. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a different Benny. Oh, just coincidence.
It's just someone who happens to be...
I never walk away from a Benny's burger with a clean face. You know?
Good to be back. Welcome, everybody, to the Rap Lizards podcast. We're doing things a little different today. We're not doing one of our picks, but we got really excited by the news about De La Soul getting their rights back to their, to make some money from their masters on their classic catalog of albums that we were by and large not hearing over the past decade or so. They never made it to the streaming services, and just recently it was announced that De La Soul won that battle and got the rights to their music, and they will be releasing them within this year. And that being said, we're recording this episode to coincide with hopefully when they release this stuff. So a little out of order, but we really wanted to make sure we had something in the chamber to pop off on you when the catalog does get released on streaming services. So that being said, we are finally, because we've been doing this a while, I can't believe we haven't done one of these albums, but we are doing Stakes is High by De La Soul. And oh my God, do I love this album. Put the bat signal out a few weeks ago to suggest that we do this one, and it's one of those you can't play currently while we're recording this. You can't play it on Spotify. You can't just zip onto the internet and find it to stream.
There are some De La albums on streaming. Some of their later albums that were not released via Tommy Boy. Yeah. So like I think is Balloon Mind State one of them?
No,
so it's not.
The only things we can hear currently on Spotify as of this recording date would be the Grind Date. Yes, which is a great album.
It's a wonderful album.
One of the best MF Doom features ever.
That's one of my favorite songs of all time. Rock Cocaine Flow. Oof.
Yep.
So
Grind Dates.
Is that on Doom by Dion?
That is definitely on Doom by Dion. 100%.
Check out Doom by
Doom
Dion.
by Dion is a Spotify playlist that Dion curated. Anything that Dion curates, I listen to.
Mm-hmm. Shit is dope. You, very, very dope playlist. Check it out. And the other album, which I highly recommend to anyone who's a De La fan, if you have not heard their Kickstarter album that they literally funded by saying, yo, we don't have a record deal. You want to hear a De La album? Pay us and we'll make it, which was genius. It's called And the Anonymous Nobody. It is literally the only time so far that you'll hear a De La album that has completely no outside, no record label, no other sources of money dictating what direction they go. So it is untamed De La, like complete creative freedom. And for that, it is so good. Highly recommend that album to anyone who hasn't heard it. But we decided on Stakes is High. Probably the magnum opus of albums for this group, right?
I don't know what that is.
Like the widely considered.
Is that like what happens? Hold up. Let me take a guess. Let me know if this is.
Let's do it.
All right. I think that's like when you like take a nap in the daytime. You take a daytime nap like on a Sunday afternoon. You open the window, you get a little breeze. You got no responsibilities. You take a nap, and then when you wake up, your throat is really dry, and you're like, and then you like text your friends or whoever's in the house, yo, let me get some water. Because I got a magnum opus. Word?
I think if you look up a dictionary, that's probably definition number 3. But I don't think that's the definition that Ben was talking about. But we'll go with that. We'll go with that for number 3.
My bad.
It's okay. Let me rephrase for those of you who don't understand. Gary, it is widely considered to be their best, most defining work, and. There's a lot of history behind it, brief history before we get into the details and the music. De La is, in my opinion, one of the most revolutionary artists, probably in music history, but definitely in hip-hop. Very few artists can you say completely changed the direction that the art form was going, and it started with the Jungle Brothers the year before, Straight Out the Jungle with jazz samples, but De La, when they released 3 Feet High and Rising in 1989, nobody ever heard anything like that. Just complete creative shift in like they sampled everything. They you know, they were as influenced by Steely Dan as they were by Funkadelic. They were as, you know, as much influenced by rock and roll as they were by jazz. And it's such a beautiful marriage of all musical influences, and the rhyming on it is so different from anything you were hearing in 89. They brought in a completely new vibe, and it was
that vibe was never repeated too.
Sure.
That was the weirdest vibe ever, and it kind of like made it brought in what's available, right?
Yeah.
What can be hip hop. I don't know. When I heard 3 Feet High and Rising, when I heard like the magic number 3 is the magic number, like what the hell? What is this? This sounds amazing, right? And like immediately want to hear it again, but it's not what I expected when I thought hip hop.
music for weirdos.
So on that, so before you even get into like the lyrics and flows and everything like that, and how that was different, Ben, so you're saying like before 3 Feet High and Rising, because there were samples, right? Like samples have always been part of hip hop, but it was more so like it was like funk, really. It was like sort of the main piece of funk and disco, really, honestly, disco and funk for samples. But you're saying before they, like, that was all before De La, and then De La came around and they started introducing jazz and like even like you said, like some rock and roll and you know, elements like that, like sort of precursor to Tribe Called Quest and arts like that, right?
I'll try to briefly break it down in terms of like so like basically when you look at the very first hip hop records, right, from the late 70s, early 80s, they were, while DJing is the thing that started hip hop, it wasn't recorded yet, and the thing that people rapped over were instrumental disco tracks in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't even samples, they were just disco tracks.
It's funny, disco and hip hop are intertwined in history, and growing up, just an offshoot for a second, growing up, like you always like, it's like, oh, disco, like fuck disco, blah blah, and like now I'm like, yo, fuck that, disco's great.
Yeah. There's some great
we got bell bottoms on right now.
But that being said, it started there, right? And then people kind of say the Def Jam era, when Rick Rubin, you know, started fucking around with the drum machine, is when the real sound of hip hop started, at least on records, started to become, you know, not necessarily just instrumental disco, but, you know, drum machines, sparse. And if the samples were anything, they were just like noises like, dang, dang, you know, like very sparse skeletal beats, right? And then you have, throughout the 80s, you have other people who kind of stepped it up with the funk sampling. One of the least credited but truly important artists in that was with the Ultramagnetic MCs in '88. The James Brown thing really, they had a mastery of that, of the drum samples and the James Brown breaks.
I mean, Funky Drummer, which we all know about Funky Drummer. That's like the number one sampled song ever.
And if you listen to,
I don't know about Funky Drummer, by the way.
Gary, you know, you do.
I'm blushing.
You 100% do. You just
you've heard it in
it.
so many songs. Yeah. It's like probably the most sampled song ever.
It's a specific part of the song, Gary. There's a drum break in that song that's like maybe 8 seconds long, but that little drum break is like what is the base for like probably, I don't know, 60% of hip hop songs since the 80s.
Oh my god, somebody do the mouth version, please.
I can't beat that. But it's like the definition of a break. It's like the break beat you've heard it everywhere. That being said, okay?
Yeah.
I'll try to speed this up because I definitely want to get to De La, but you know, throughout you had the Bomb Squad with Public Enemy, who really had the sound was this bombastic, like loud, driving, you know, chaotic sound. But until you got to the Jungle Brothers, right? The source of samples were very much just drums and funky, and funk sourced, but not always funky music created, right? They used funk as the things they sampled from, but I'd say the heartbeat was still very much like this, boom, boom.
And that's,
you know what I mean?
That's ultimately like one of the many reasons why I fucking love hip hop, because like just to be able to take an entire genre of music, sample it, cut it up into a completely different sound and a completely like this is beyond De La. This is just like good hip hop producers in general. Like that's just fucking fantastic. I love it, and it's all over this album.
Well, 100%. That being said, then you get to this incredible time in hip hop where the how do I explain this? So there was in the late 80s, right? All of a sudden, there's this shift that happens. It starts with the Jungle Brothers, where they're sampling jazz in a way that it's way more fluid and way more, for lack of a better term, musical, right? And in that way, it actually becomes more funky because they kind of subscribe to some of the principles that funk brings about, which is space, timing, pocket. All of that starts really coming into its own with Straight Out the Jungle by the Jungle Brothers. And then you get to 1989. I'm not going to go into the history of how De La formed or anything, but when they came out with 3 Feet High and Rising, nobody ever heard any album that sounded like that. The sources they pulled from sampling, and then the way they flipped it into this soulful, jazzy, funky sound, you will not find an album before this one that sounds anything remotely like it. And this is the shit. If you're a Doom fan, if you like Doom's quirky beats, you have to trace that back to De La, 3 Feet High and Rising. Just introduce this left brain, oddball, funky musical sound that did not exist. It was all about being a tough guy and being the best before them, right? And they introduced this, let's just express ourselves. Let's talk about
flower power, bro.
Well, yeah, I mean, they hated that.
Seriously,
They hated.
flower
No,
power.
I know,
they
I
had
know.
flowers on the cover. Is that what you're referring to? Of 3 Feet High and Rising?
And they were labeled hippie hop and all this shit, and they went through a serious shift in their sound by the time the second album came.
Stakes is High is not a hippie rap album.
No. And this is their 4th album. But that being said, De La is revolutionary for that reason. But by the time you get to 1996, right? De La Soul is Dead came out in 92. Balloon Mind State, which is one of my all-time favorite albums, did not sell well, even though it's, in my opinion, incredible. So by the time they get to 96, De La had something to prove. And from the documentary I found, that they released on YouTube by Mass Appeal, I found out it's the first time they ever had an album title before they even started writing or recording anything. Stakes is High was the like their
Sounds
motto.
Like it was a
like,
governing concept.
Exactly.
Right? It was like a concept for the album.
It is, yeah.
Stakes is high because if we don't fucking succeed on this one, career might be over.
Also, I mean, again, I mean, it's pretty obvious too that that's the theme, but then the overarching theme of Stakes is High is also hip hop in general at that time in history, like 96. Like, it's one of the things we've said many times in the show. Like, I've always said, and I think you guys both agree. Like, I always say 98 is like the last year of like great hip hop. So this album was released in 96, and like the theme of this album, and they go into it in quite a few songs, is about the degradation of hip hop to that point, and like them being worried of the coming changes that did end up happening, and yeah, exactly. And that's also like, so Stakes is High, yes, for them it meant something, but also in a broader hip hop term, yeah, Stakes is High is like, yo, the stakes are high for our fucking genre. Like, let's see what's going on in our future.
Yes, D, and they saw it coming. Like, they literally predicted the de-evolution that was about to happen, the transition from self-expression and individualism to this needing to fit a mold of baller, shiny, glistening hip hop. We didn't see it coming, but they did, and I think it started with the music videos showing, the guys in the hot tubs with the girls in mansions that they rented. They even made there was a music video off of Balloon Mind State where literally they're making fun of everyone else's music video, where they literally have like, they're in a mansion, but they write in captions, "This mansion is a rental." Like, you know what I mean? Like and that's another thing that De La doesn't get enough. It doesn't get pointed out enough because they're seen as quote unquote hippie hop and the people who brought about talking about more peaceful shit and self-expression, but they also have some of the most deep cutting insults towards whack MCs I've ever heard. Like, they are harsh when it comes to their battle bars. They're just not talking about "we're gonna shoot you." They're not talking about street shit, but they are disrespectful in their battle bars.
it's not just whack MCs actually. There's when we start talking about the songs, and I will not let myself forget about this because it's one of my huge points. But they take a pretty obvious jab at a quite a prominent rapper back then who was not whack at all. Probably considered one of the greatest rappers of all time. But we'll get to that. It's from the song Once Again Long Island. But again, Ben, finish your thought about this. When we get into the songs, I'll point that out.
No problem. I think that's just, generally speaking, I want to give praise to this group who, by and large, changed the dynamic and the direction, that hip hop was going. There's a reason why certain groups are remembered and why certain, very talented individuals from a scene kind of get forgotten, right? You could be super talented, but if you're just blending in with the rest of the landscape, you might not be remembered in the way that someone who completely alters the timeline here and alters the way things are going and the direction that the music is going. And that's what De La did. So you get to Stakes is High, and they had a lot to prove. Two albums that really didn't sell well, a waning popularity, and then you show up to 1996, and this was their last chance to really make something impactful. And it was by far the most impactful album they ever made. And I don't think they made a bad album. I don't think any one of their releases is under the category of excellent. And that's another thing to say. When you have as many albums as they do and not one of them isn't excellent, that in itself is an accomplishment. But this one,
it's impressive.
Yeah. Benny, are you saying from like a production standpoint, like what excellent in every way?
In every way. Production, lyrics, features, playability, consistency, always switching it up. They never made an album that sounded like the last one. Like, there's That's just true. So many things to admire about De La and their career. I love this group.
Something I love about them is that they are not on the same timeline as everybody else. I mean, maybe they're looking ahead and they see what's coming, or they're just doing something so different. I mean, going back to, I know you wouldn't want to get into history of rap in the 80s, but like leading up to 1989, what was going on? You had Public Enemy, very important political discourse in rap, like 1988, I think. Right before that, you had Criminal Minded, not too long before that.
KRS,
and you had,
LL.
That's right.
Rakim,
right.
Cool G Rap, and you had these.
Yeah, right. And none of it was flower power shit, right?
Over on the West Coast, you start having NWA too. Like that's starting to pop up too at this point.
To your point, Gary, before De La, in my opinion, right? Before De La, what you were showing off, even with there was changing in how production was being made, and people did revolutionize the system of how you made beats and how the music sounded. But by and large, it was what you were showing off was your bars, right? And 87, I always say, is the year that bars became bars, right? It's no longer my name is big and I'm about to say all
of a sudden you got Rakim coming out, be like, exactly. Blowing that whole shit up.
Rakim, KRS, and then Big Daddy Kane and G-Rap, Cool G-Rap. They all changed that direction into multisyllabic, creative, metaphorical. Things
started sounding relatively unpredictable and very exciting
and unique.
But that's a good way to put it, Gary. Yeah.
But that's what was the showcase, right? You had the beats underneath to showcase the rapper, right? I'd say this is where you start to see these perfect albums come about in 1989 with 3 Feet High and Rising. Is you start to see the music matters just as much as the rapping, right? The music is just as much a showcase as the bars, and the bars are incredible, but the overall production and presentation of the entire song matters way more now, and kind of leaves everything else in the dust sonically. right, so let's get to Stakes is High. Let's get to this fucking album. Let's get to I gotta this word doesn't get thrown around a lot. Although we've talked about a few of these albums, but I would call this one a masterpiece. I would call this one perfect from beginning to end. Not one weak spot, not one weak feature. Incredible production. Some of the best lyrics you will ever hear by anyone. Perfect album. So fucking good.
Man, I would say this is a universe by itself. By itself, this is a self-contained, complete universe. You could get so lost in this album. There's so much nuance to it. There's so much in it, and it sounds so good. You could get lost in it for years. I've gotten lost in it for years.
Me too, man. And it's almost like it's funny. De La is one of the only groups where up until the grind date, I bought every CD they ever made, right? I bought every one of them. I didn't get into De La until high school, to be honest with you. Like, I knew Me, Myself, and I, but I was not a De La stan the way I am now until freshman year of high school. But in that time, and then every album they released during the 2000s, I bought those CDs. And now it's kind of...
You're just excusing that you burned all those fucking CDs.
Well, I burned all the other CDs, right? So I burned so many CDs. Piracy was a big part of my story.
Napster, baby.
But I had the actual store-bought CDs of all the De La shit, and the sound quality of listening to a CD versus listening to a compressed MP3, which is the only thing I have now, because I don't have any CDs anymore. I only have the MP3s that I ripped onto my computer in fucking high school, so like the sound quality is compressed, and I'm like really looking forward to when these things get released again to get the uncompressed sound, because the production on this album is so detailed, right? Dion, you mentioned the commentary on the direction hip-hop was going, right? One of the biggest critiques and flaw, I don't want to call it a flaw, but one of the things that happened around this time is, and Puffy's very guilty of this, right? But like, producers started to realize you could just take a loop of a song and that's going to be your beat. Juicy, for example, or sure. So many big Mace songs in 98, they just, famous 80s R&B number, they find this section of the song and loop it, and with a few things here and there to accentuate it, that's the beat, right?
Mace's voice sounded good over that shit.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm not a Mace hater.
Shitting on it. It was,
no.
It was great for what it was. Like,
Yeah.
But if you compare that to the beats on this album, these are beats that are so meticulously crafted, right? Every sound is sampled and then layered and arranged into its own song. And it literally is so much more impressive. The feat and what you get is a vibe unique to this album and to this sound that you're just not going to hear on the commercial side of hip hop by the time you get to 97, 98. So let's talk production first, if we can.
Yes.
These fucking beats are so just from the first intro track, right? What is, like, I think, is that Funky Drummer, Dion? That
probably
just funky drum sample. It's with that thumping bass line, sets the tone. Then you get into Super MCs, and you start to hear these tones that they use throughout the album. They're dissonant jazz chords.
That Super MCs. That's one of my. So the Super MCs, the bass for that is like it's this Brazilian samba song, called "Summer Samba" by Walter Wanderley from '65. I know there's a lot of '60s and '70s samples specifically with De La on this album.
Yeah.
But funny, it's just more sped up than the original. I do recommend listening to the original. It's a dope sounding song. But yeah, it's just like a super sped up version that De La did. And then they also, which is cool, that super is from Super Sperm by Captain Sky. 78 funk song. So now we're going back to the the original the sort of funk samples. And you guys probably remember, notice that too, because Method Man famously in the song Method Man goes super sperm. That's directly from that song, Super Sperm from 1978. But De La, all they sample is the super like it's, but like just again as you said, Ben, the combination of that plus the samba with the Brazilian, like it just makes this whole brand new sound. That this is what we were talking about towards the beginning of this episode, like just taking two completely different genres, again samba and funk, right, samples from that and making it into a obvious hip hop song. Like that's just dope, man. Maceo is the shit, and that's the reason why talented. If you notice, like a lot of groups don't do, some groups do, but a lot of groups don't do this, where when it's like rappers and a DJ, DJ's usually in the background or whatever. But Maceo, if you notice, for a lot of their press and like their pictures and everything, he's front and center.
Oh yeah,
it's you almost like when I was younger, like I used to think like, oh, he was just one of the one of the rappers. I just didn't like.
Is he just the handsome one? What's going on here?
He's the fucking DJ. He's with the glue. Like that's what all these groups really should be doing that a lot more.
They shout him out a lot. Like he is the star.
And they have a relationship similar, not exactly. So like with Tribe, Tip was the creative force, and Ali Shaheed would help him actualize his vision, right? Like that was a lot of what Tribe's genius was Tip had it in his head, and Shaheed was like, let's make that happen. You know what I mean? He was the technical side of things, at least in the beginning.
Translated it to on a practical level, basically.
De La also, Paz had a lot to do with finding samples, but the person who was the musical mind and the sonic...
The band leader, basically.
Band leader was Maceo. It is Maceo, And these... What you have, when you have beats that are crafted in such a way where it's not a loop, right? Because if you listen with attentive ears, right, you'll hear points in the song where he'll maybe drop something out or add a new instrument or a new sample for a brief few bars. And these things are what, if you're not paying attention, you just you're along for the ride. But when you do, you're like, oh, that's why this vibe changes over here, because there's this thing that there's this tone that's hitting in a pocket that it wasn't there, and then it's gone, right? So when you have your fingers on the pulse of the song in that way, you could really manipulate the emotional listening experience without even knowing it. Without the listener even really thinking about it until they start paying attention, right? This is pay attention rap at its finest. But also music that if you put it on front to back at a party, no one, it would just be perfect chill out music. You know what I mean? For your boy, for your friends.
That's right. The moments that you do pay attention are like, oh snap, that sounds awesome, right? Or like bookmark this. I want to listen to this again later.
Right. Exactly. But at the same time, it's a perfect soundtrack for chilling. It's just such a vibe.
Yeah, you could put on this album, listen to it straight through without, I mean, there's no urge to skip around. Exactly.
Flawless. That's a perfect. We were talking a while ago about the Fugees album, the score, which is also genius, and I would call, I said in that episode, it's a perfect album, but it's not a masterpiece because one of its ingredients was a guy with a dope voice, but not dope bars, right? You can't say that about.
I disagree with that.
Well, Gary, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
But this album, you can't say there's not one lackluster bar. You know what I mean? No. It's ferociously lyrical. But let's
including the features too. Like obviously, you got Common and a very young Mos Def, which is.
Let's talk about that Common song. Let's talk about
the business.
The business. Oh my.
Common Sense. This is back when he was Common Sense.
I remember. Okay, I don't always remember the first time I heard something, but I remember exactly where I was, exactly how I felt when I heard this song for the first time. I bought the CD summer going between freshman year into sophomore year, okay? I was at sleepaway camp. I put the CD on in my Discman, and I heard, and bass up the track a little bit, because I want to hear that boom, boom, boom. Yo, and then I talk about this a lot, but the use of space, right, where the notes don't get played, are as important as the notes themselves.
We've talked about that many times before. It's right.
Yep.
Like Doom was excellent at that. I forget what others, but like that Doom was the first one that comes. Yeah, Dilla, who does have a track on this. I didn't realize that he produced a track on this.
And you could tell in the same way that he influenced Tribe Sound on Beats, Rhymes, and Life. He really influenced De La's sound. They were chilling with Dilla, and his approach to music is all over this album, you know? But that being said, the business, right? The way each sample stab comes in behind the beat, right? Dun, dun, dun. You know, it's this pause and that split second between the on the nose and those split second percussive stabs, right? That is funk, right? One of my favorite quotes ever is by Prince. He said, they asked me to describe funk, and I said, if you could describe it, it ain't funky. But, like, I'm trying here to, like, describe the essence of funk. And that, to me, that's it. It's just this coming in behind and in front of the beat percussively to make this pocket that kind of, I don't know, it hits you off guard, and it's just so dope to hear, right? There's a sparseness, but it's very musical. Love that song. Probably top 2 or 3 songs on this album is The Business. Thoughts on the song?
For me, it like Common Shine again. Like this, it wasn't his first thing. This is like he already dropped 2 albums to this point. Again, he was Common Sense back then. This is before he dropped that and started doing obviously more acting stuff he's doing now. He still got bars, by the way. I think he released a song recently. I think it's earlier this year, and so just to let people know, it's like, yo, I ain't lose my shit anyway. But no, that's the first thing. Like I have my notes. Like the first note that I have on The Business is just simple. Like Common, it was/is so dope. Like that, just nothing. You know.
Do you want to be an MC? Do you want to serve? Do you want to be dope? Or do you want to deal it? Oh,
so dope.
Such a everyone's verses on that fucking. Such a good song. Such a fucking good song.
Apparently, the outro, by the way, like that, like where they shouting people out, is an homage to We Got the Jazz. I didn't realize that. But by Tribe, like it's something about it.
Calling everybody nonstop. That part.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Cool.
By the way.
Oh, yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Bit. By the way, one of the groups they shout out at the end is Camp Lo. Do you guys know Camp Lo?
Nope.
Gary, give them a listen. They had this album, Uptown Saturday Night. They came out 97, the year after this. One of my favorite songs, Lucchini, is on it. Great song.
Oh,
but I also
that song.
discovered something. The album cover for Uptown Saturday Night, it paid homage to a Marvin Gaye album called the album I Want You by Marvin Gaye, right? Very famous album cover. It's like a 70s looking like sort of disco party, like a wide shot of a disco party, and that's the similar cover to Uptown Saturday Night. But also,
oh yeah,
this is the Rap Shack photo, the Rap Shack print by Chris B. Murray. I want to give shout out to him. I got this, and same sound on my ring light is kind of like reflecting it, but that sort of like that 70s party with like the 2 people in the middle is featured. Like it's dope. I recommend looking up both the Uptown Saturday Night by Camp Lo covers and the I Want You Marvin Gaye covers. It's they're both fucking dope.
Cool.
Yeah. I just wanted to shout that out also just to show this this art because it's fucking
nice humble flex.
Oh no, it's not flex. It's more so I could give props to the artist Chris B. Murray. Thank you. And I got it a while ago, but I just wanted to share that. But as I'm listening through, like part of my research, I'm like I see that cover and it's like wait, that looks familiar, and I was like oh. Right. Okay. It's all connected. It's all fucking connected. Anyway, I know that's like a little bit of an offshoot and a tangent, but getting back to the business. Just overall. Yeah. I think I agree with you, Ben. It's definitely one of the top songs in this album.
You get the sense that they're in the same session, right? Because Common on the C to the O-double-M-O-N.
Yeah.
I sit and think with a drink rather than tripling it, right? And then he hears Dave triple it, and then Pos triple it, and he goes, "Oh, so that's how I'm supposed to do it. I'm supposed to triple it."
So dope. It's so
like
dope.
right, like they. I love that they left that in, it makes it feel organic. It makes it feel like, yeah, we're just vibing through this thing. You know what I mean? It's
great.
So cool.
I think the vibe of this album continued from top to finish. I mean,
Right.
just starting out with, like, all the audio tracks. I think maybe it was more popular back then than it is now, and I kind of miss it. But this kind of epitomized what was great about having small, like, conversational skits in between songs. It sunk you right into that world. You know, it was like you're not in Kansas anymore. You're in De La Soul world, right? Like what?
And they
what's
don't
up with Long
overstay their
Island?
welcome, right? They don't overstay their welcome. These interludes.
That's right. That's right.
Comes in, comes out. It's not like, okay, wrap the skit up. You know, sometimes skits go on forever and they're attached to a song, and you gotta if you really just want to hear the song, you gotta fast forward it. But these interludes that you were talking about, Gary, they really don't overstay their welcome.
No,
they're just
they're
like
quick
these
hitters.
little snippets. I love the one with Maceo where he's like, they told me, what's the name of it? They told
Essos.
me where Essos. Well, they also call SOBs SOs. He goes, they don't fuck with Maceo the last time. I'm fucking, like, it's just like a very funny, just, it might have just been an actual conversation. You know what I mean? Like,
Probably was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, but also they ground you with, like, there's the conversation with the hillbilly guy in the bar, the racist dude, right? There's the
Rap.
conversation with the
It sucks. I
yeah,
hate
rap, it sucks. That's how it opens up. Rap, it sucks. I hate it.
I hate it.
Right? And there's a racial slur in there too. And it's I don't know. I don't know the backstory of that track, whether this is an actor or an actual recording, but
I would
pretty
100%
on the
think that's
nose.
a real. I mean,
Wait,
like, there's
Dion, you
nothing that
don't
tells
know
me
where
it's
it's
not.
from? I had a feeling you would tell us exactly where it was from.
I think we need to find this out right now.
No idea. I tried looking it up. It's not. I can't find it. I just think that it sounds like they just went
Very
to a
on the
fucking bar and recorded
nose.
someone.
But you know what was definitely real? I would be very disappointed if the track with the homeless guy was not real, because there are many people that are on the experiencing homelessness that have a similar story. It wouldn't be hard to find somebody who talks about their experience being homeless in an articulate way that actually lands the reality on your lap as you're listening to this dope rap album. You're listening to a reality that we were on the East Coast listening to this album, right? We're in New York, and this and they're from Long Island, right? And this is definitely an account of New York homelessness, which was a first for me. I never at that age, like, in high school, listening to this album, I didn't I haven't spoken personally to people that were experiencing homelessness before. I had no idea what that's like. I couldn't put a voice to them. And for the first time, I heard the voice of somebody going through that, and it's on this album. Really adds, like, reality and grit to it in between these really awesome songs.
Oh, that's
The
interesting.
vibe was really thoughtful.
Yeah.
That experience of hearing that, Gary, it's like almost like you're in this fantasy world listening to this album. You're just like, you're in like the head of a Long Island MC, and it's just such a vibe, and very few things are depressing, and then all of a sudden you have this account by this guy, and it's like, whoa, like a very heavy, brought back to earth moment before one of the heaviest songs on the album, Stakes is High. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, really powerful shit.
Also, they rep Long Island in those skits like nobody
Yes.
but Grand Puba.
Mm-hmm.
No,
The
only
amount
Grand
of times I
Puba
heard
reps Long Island like
516
they
on this
lie.
album. It's
What's
great.
a 516?
Yeah.
Different album.
Yeah.
Different album.
Wait, Grand Puba represents Long Island?
Yeah, what's a 516, baby?
Yeah. Remember that line? I know what Gary's talking about.
We got to do 2000. I haven't heard that album in forever.
Yeah, seriously.
That was a very confusing album for me. Moving on.
He's from Grand Puba's from New Rochelle, actually, not Long Island. I don't know if he grew up in Long Island or something like that, but yeah, no, but Gary's definitely right. I will never forget that line. It's a really funny line. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, just listen to Grand Puba's album.
2000.
Oh my god. Yeah, 2000. It's funny, like in my head, I was like, wait, was it actually called 2000? Is that the name of it?
2000.
Great.
He was he was the first person to jump on 2000. He did it all the way in 95. Everything
Yeah.
was called 2000 between like 99 and but he was like, yo, it's 95, it's 2000. Oh man. So let's move it along. I'm a little bit more on the production side of things. I kind of alluded to it already, but their use of dissonant jazz chords and chord changes, right? They're not these major pop sounds. There are these subdued chord changes. They're a little dissonant. They're a little bit on the dark side of like moving from a minor to another minor key, and the shape of that, right, is, or like the experience of it is a darkness, right? There is a darkness surrounding this album. You're not listening to this album and you're not seeing rainbow colors. It's not a party, and you're not experiencing a lot of joy, at least in the sonic part of this album, right? There's a darkness to it.
Except at the end, it does have an inflection at the end, right?
Yes.
Which is on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
By design, definitely by design.
But like, wouldn't you agree? Like the tones of this album are like dark brown, gray, dark blue.
Sure.
That's what I'm hearing. It's just like these really grounded and heavy emotional backdrop, just in the music, and that's from these jazz chords, these minor keys. It's not party music, decidedly, even though it's funky.
Well, even though it is party music,
Right.
Totally, right? Like we were just talking about at the
Exactly,
at the top
it
of
is,
the-
but it isn't. Exactly, it's not party music, but it works at parties. That's what it
If
is.
you're hearing it at a party, you're not gonna turn your head and scratch. You're not gonna be scratching your head. What am I listening to? You're gonna be nodding your head and enjoying yourself.
Exactly, but it's not going to be like, yeah, let's party, bitches. It's like just like this.
Right.
It's a great backdrop to a good time, but there's darkness there. You know what I mean?
But De La, I don't think, maybe I haven't heard enough of their work, but like, because I haven't gotten into their more contemporary work as much as probably I will. But they never had, as far as I can tell, the tracks that stuck with me are not the ones that are like jump up on the table and start dancing tracks. They're nodding your head tracks. They're chill tracks.
Yeah.
All of them.
Although a few of the ones from 3 Feet High and Rising are pretty fucking danceable. Me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
I know. You know that song?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
EYE, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best Steely Dan samples in the history of hip hop, and there's a lot of good ones, but that's one of the best. They sample Peg. Anyway, darkness throughout the album in terms of the sonics. And let's talk. Can we talk about Plug One? Can we talk about Pasta Noose?
Yo, this fucking guy. So. So just take a step back. So as we're doing talking about this album, I heard something on the Juan Ep podcast recently with Peter Rosenberg and Cypher Sounds. They had J. Rue the Damager on, and he was talking about how back in the day, like him and his friends, I think Guru was among them because they were close to J. Rue was close to Gangsta. And what they do is they would get together for these like rap sessions, these like private like rap sessions, just them in like a booth, like smoking, drinking, whatever, just hanging out. And each of them would have to rap their own verse, but in another famous rapper's style at that time, right? Cool. Which is very challenging. I mean, these are professional rappers, of course they're able to do this. But it made me realize, and he was talking about this, that back then, different like rappers all had completely different styles from one another, because if you didn't, and we talked about this before, if you didn't, it would be considered biting, right? Yep. Those days are fucking long gone, obviously, right? Like everyone, like these days, like whatever. That's a whole nother thing. But so now after hearing that, I'm listening to De La and I'm realizing, oh yeah, of course that's partly what makes Paz and Dave like so unique and so great. Like their styles are just so much different from not only one another, but also what other artists are doing at the time. Like so I started thinking about it. It's like, all right, so what does Paz sound like? And I realized that what Paz's style is basically, he's that brother that like just is always dropping knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. That dude that's like smart, like like open your third eye, type. Mm-hmm. So that translates into his flow, where it's like da 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 da. It's like, yeah, so I'm telling you, remember that back in the day there was this thing and the government did this and that's the way he talks and that's the way he raps, and it's just fucking dope. Like I'm thinking about it, it's like, wow, yeah, there was no other rapper that was like that back then. There's no other rapper that really raps like that now. But he takes it and like he makes it work in like to be Ben. You called it earlier this week. We were talking privately. You think that Paz should be considered a top 10. Like he is a GOAT. And after deep diving here, I'm like, that's I can't really argue against that. Like he's incredible.
Guys, related to that, can we talk about the Ghost Weed skits? Are the Ghost Weed skits on this album?
Not on this album.
Yo,
But we can talk about it.
relevant. We need to talk about that because this is. I think it's relevant, right? Like I think typify this piece of hip hop culture. I think they helped seed this piece of hip hop culture, and by including, and later on they will include these skits, and not to give anything away, but hopefully if you're listening to this, you might have listened to some De La Soul albums. They have a skit where it's a bunch of them sitting around hanging out, and they're pretending to be another rapper, and they smoke a special weed that makes them rap. Their cadence and their voice sound like that rapper, and it starts off being whoever is speaking and rapping, right? And then it actually turns into that person from the hip hop community, from the that artist will actually step in, and it'll fade into their voice during their style of rapping.
So Pharaoh, Fife, and
Black Thought.
And Black Thought, right, exactly. It was Thought.
I could listen to that endlessly, and it reminds me of what is really great about that era of hip hop, and I don't know, it's deep seated, I think, in this album as well. They just didn't get to it.
Gary, I think I will say that it's actually good you brought that up because it actually directly relates to what I was talking about. I didn't even put two and two together. I didn't make that connection, but you're absolutely right. Again, going back to what J. Rue was talking about them, doing those rap sessions back in the day. Ghost Weed, like those skits are exactly what that is, except obviously in this case, like they actually use the real rappers for it. But no, I definitely think that's relevant. No, that does make sense. But Ben's right. We should do that album and like really like sort of like it's
examine that. Yeah, that's one of the best albums ever. I love Artificial Intelligence. Mosaic Thump is the name of the first one that one's on. That being said, on the note of Pasta Noose, on the train of thought that Dion was just taking us on, I would argue Pasta might be the most unique sound there is in MCing. I've never heard someone you could hear, right, even on unique characters who stand alone and they're not biting, but you could hear that Cool G Rap inspired Inspector Deck, or that Rakim inspired Nas, or that, the list goes on. You could see people's lineage. Redman inspired so many. You know what I mean? I don't see or hear anyone who inspired Pasta Noose, and I don't hear anyone who sounded like they were inspired by him. He's just this entity of delivery and of rhythmic complexity, and to your point, Dion, the way he proclaims in his rap music, it is these impactful statements.
It's like he's dropping knowledge that only he has. Like that's his style. Like I didn't even think about it until I started listening. Like really, this past week, like listening to this album, I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what he sounds like. He sounds like the Open Your Third Eye dude.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is his lyrical content that is science dropping, but in the way he delivers.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the delivery, not necessarily his content. His flow sounds like that dude that's at the barbecue that's like telling you like it's that
breaking
cadence,
it down.
Like that's Paz. I will say though. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just his rhyme schemes, right? They're always left field, right? They're never what you think they're gonna be, right? It's just once you become acquainted with him and his delivery, they're in line with the Pasta Noose vibe, but it's just so unique. There's just no one else in the world who sounds like him. He's got bars that like are life changing for me. Hearing some of the shit he said, you know what I mean? Again, this goes back to that album that you were talking about, Gary. Mosaic Thump, Artificial Intelligence. He's got a line on that has stuck with me and is playing loop in the back of my head for my entire life. He goes, "Ain't nothing street about me. I'm more like a light post, shining above all. Who are y'all to boast?" Sick. Huh?
Sick.
What? Anyway, yeah. Pasta is
I will say that he is very unique. I do disagree though that he's the most unique, like in terms of like his style and everything. I think that goes to MF Doom. I think that's 1, 2, and 3. Like he is one person who is like there is like.
I would argue that Earl Sweatshirt, right? While MF Doom created his own style, you could hear people like Earl, like Flying Lotus. What's his rapper name? I always forget. Flying Lotus. Captain Murphy.
Oh, Captain. Not Captain Marvel.
Murphy.
Captain Murphy. Captain Murphy. Yes. Captain
so
Murphy.
like you could hear people who are currently inspired.
That's what you mean. I think I misunderstood what you're saying. Yeah.
What I meant by Pasta is you can't hear who inspired him, and you can't hear anyone who sounds remotely like him after him.
I actually do have an example on this album of I think it's something that Pasta, as ironically to talk about MF Doom, there's one line that I think was influenced by MF Doom's style, and that's on Once Again Long Island. He has a 2 bars that goes, "Man, the only thing but about you is your spine, mad yellow. You can't rock the Mardi Gras, my mellow." That's Doom. Yo, that is Doom.
But Doom didn't drop his first single until a year and a half after this album.
Yeah, but Doom's also been doing it as Zev Love X since the 80s.
He didn't sound like that in '93.
Yes, he did. Ben, go back, listen to
Black Bastards.
Not even Black Bastards on their first album, on Mr. Hood. I'll have to dig up the song, but this is one set of lines, and it goes throughout the entire songs, throughout the entire albums, or whatever. But I didn't realize this either until like a few months ago when I started when Doom died, I started re-listening to some of his like old stuff, and I actually do realize you need to go back and listen. He does have that style from even when he was younger. Like there's some parts where like there's this line that has to do with Tom Sawyer. If you know what I'm talking about from
I don't.
Either way, trust me on this.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
Guys, I think we must.
He did release his singles well after this, but he'd been like established in the hip hop community, and like I wouldn't be surprised at all if like they were friends, and he was like, oh yeah, let me throw this in as an homage to MF Doom. I could be wrong as well, but like. That specific like type of way he rhymed, like mad yellow, you can't rock the Mardi Gras, my mellow. Like that's to me, I heard Doom. I heard nothing but Doom in that.
Okay,
I could be wrong. Enough. I could be completely wrong, but that's an example. But like I'm not knocking him. Like this is like that's just what it is. And I didn't think he's biting. I think it's all homage. Aside from that, like I haven't really heard anything else that Paz sort of got influenced by. Like he is very unique in that. But I do think that he drew in inspiration and sort of paid homage to other artists, and especially Doom. I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's all right. I love how he sets that song off too.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the heavens, August 1, 769, born I wonder why with the thoughts to rhyme. Just like such a cool intro. Just like his sense of rhythm. It's special.
He murders that track too.
Yeah.
Once again, like, he murders it.
He's kind of like Inspector Deck in that way. He comes in with such gusto. Just kind of like it sets the tone for the track right away. This is going to be an energetic track.
For sure. I agree.
Since we're on that song, by the way, that's a song where we were talking about how he disses a lot of whack MCs, like or the De La in general disses whack MCs. There's a part in this song. It's actually kind of twofold. Where they're talking about. I'll just say the lines. He goes, "What's worse is to see females which the sexual mentality doesn't match with the given anatomy. Man, they rather be hoes like that male MC who walk around like they got nuts. I'm not doing this right. Whatever. Okay. And use tits and ass as a crutch. Man, the underground's about not being exposed. So you better take your naked ass and put on some clothes. So that's twofold, right?
Tupac.
So yes, so I didn't realize this before. That is a bare diss on Tupac and Digital Underground, who actually died 2 months after this album came out. But it just goes to show that
there was an unspoken beef. Do you know about this? There was this feud between Tupac and De La.
So I didn't realize that, but it makes sense because back then, like,
took shots at him.
I was in the middle of the East Coast West Coast beef, and we were talking about this before. Like, even Tribe, remember the other day, who like was always about like I want nothing to do with that. Even they had like some shit. It's like no, I gotta be East Coast, right? Like I gotta say something. But yeah.
But they also said I hate a Buster.
Except
his name is
unless his name is Busta Rhymes. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was, but that part, especially again, like man, they'd rather be hoes like that male MC. It's better
Walking
taking
around
naked
holding his
naked
nuts.
ass. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was reminiscent of. I know I keep bringing up Doom, but Beef Rap. If you remember, there's that part where he goes. One of my favorite parts of that entire song. What up to all rappers? Shut up when you wait. What up to all rappers? Shut up when you're shutting up and keep your shirt on, at least a button up. Yuck! Is a rappers a strip of males out of work jerks since they shut down Chippendales.
Yep.
That is exactly what Paz is talking about with Tupac. It's like, yo, put a fucking shirt on. What are you doing? Like, I'm not speaking ill of the dead or anything, but like that, like, yeah, there was a point where Tupac was just all about like the sex appeal and.
They took shots at Dave took shots at Biggie on this album.
Where did he take shots at Biggie? Did I miss that?
He said, "I got questions about your life if you're so ready to die."
Yeah, true that.
Ooh, I missed that. That's...
I'm just saying they
take shots at everyone.
They're not afraid to take shots.
They brought up a very good point, relevant.
Yeah,
given everything that happened right after it.
Right. No, they had commentary on the direction hip hop was going. Even some of the greatest, they had something to say about it, and I love it. I'm all for it because every point they make has some validity to it. Even if they're going after really talented people, there's validity in the points that they're making, and they're pretty tough shots at people. They're like they say, they're not street guys. They're not someone who's gonna come kill you, but they will murder your fraudulent ways with their lyrics.
They did murder my fraudulent ways. They did.
Dave, let's talk about Dave for a minute, can we?
Yeah.
So it took me years to come to full appreciation of Trugoy the Dove, or as he later went by, Dave. He was always that other MC to me, right? There was Pasta Noose, and then there was Dave. Dave did his shit. It was not whack. It was dope. But to me, his cadence and his flows, which often didn't rhyme, right? He would often not necessarily rhyme in places you would expect him to, even as offbeat as Doom or as Dell or as Kool Keith is. Like, well, I'm gonna actually hold not Kool Keith, but I come to realize through interviews and through just listening, Dave is more inspired by Kool Keith than I think. It's at least in rhyme structure.
Yeah.
I'm talking 88 Kool Keith. I'm talking.
Yeah, Ultra Mag was
Ultra Mag,
very top of influence.
I think that Dave and Mace were very Maceo, very influenced, and Dave in particular. If you listen to some of Dave's bars throughout their career and go and put 88 Kool Keith in your head, Dave starts to make sense.
Interesting. More. Okay.
And I've come to love his shit. It took me a while to catch up. A lot of it went over my head, the subtlety and the nuance and the bars. It was almost like I was only paying attention to Paz. But now I'm a huge fan of both of them. I think Dave is so talented. And that's what
I gotta say, I think this is obviously no hate at all, but I think I'm still where you were, Ben. Where like I love them all. I love Dave. I love Paz. But to me, like Paz, like when I think of De La and I think of like the bars that De La like puts out, I always think Plug One. I'm
not gonna put Dave in that category of Pasta News. I think Pasta News again. Shameless plug, raplizards.com. I have a top 10 list, right? And we're gonna in time add I think our own lists, but I have to update that because listen, I will shortly take someone off that list and replace and put Pasta News there. He is one of the most, if not the most underrated, overlooked MC in history, right? He doesn't get talked about in that conversation, and I think I know why. And it's a point I wanted to make. Can you name another group this good with people this talented that never veered off and tried to do a solo career?
Yeah.
Can you?
No, I don't think so.
I'm thinking.
I can't. I did a lot of thinking about it. Think about that, bro. If Paz went and did a solo album and had some solo hits, I think he might be in the conversation a little more. But like even Black Thought eventually veered off and did his own solo shit. You know what I mean? But like they are just De La, and I think that's just how it's gonna be.
I agree with
shocked.
that, man. Like it has to
I'd
be
be
that way.
shocked.
It has to be that way because the vibe is so important to what they put out. It wouldn't be a De La album if it didn't have the special sauce, and the special sauce has to do with the group.
They
It
definitely
just does,
elevate
right?
each other's sound. Yeah.
Although on the flip side, like that's true, or at least we think it's true. But at the same time, it's like I'm a little curious to know like what would happen if they did put something if
I'd
they
be
did release
very
solo
curious.
shit. Like it's just it'd just be,
It's
but you're right.
strange.
I think it also has to do with sort of with personality too, right? It's like he's like in all of them, like they like, but you know they're just like such chill sort of people. I can't really see them. It's almost like Inspector Deck, right? Like Deck did put out some solo stuff, and it never really gained like before Czarface really. He didn't really have that much commercial success, even though he's probably he's one of the greatest MCs I've ever fucking heard. And a lot of people agree with that. That you know he might be he very well might be the best MC in all Wu-Tang, which is obviously saying something. But like his solo stuff never really took off that much, and I think part of it is personality. I think like Paz is the same way. These are chill individuals who
Team players.
They're team players, but it's even beyond that. It's like I could see both of them like not being as interested in like the promotional aspect of an album and like doing like the talk show runs and stuff like that. Like both Paz and Dave for that matter, and Deck, like I put him in that category. So like whereas Deck, we did see the example of him trying to do solo stuff and not really nothing really taking off that much. Probably what would have happened with Paz too had he tried. So maybe it is good that he stuck. They stuck with just the group stuff. But who knows? I'm curious to know.
I think the decision in itself benefits us in the long run, right? Because I think what you get is, I'm sure they have their, as any group does, their internal struggles, their fights, their arguments, their disagreements, their times not wanting to talk to each other. Sometimes I hate both of you with all of my heart.
I still do.
But what I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But what I'm saying is, I think the decision, because it has to be that the decision to be like, no, we are De La. De La is me. De La is you. We are De La. You know what I mean? Like, we're not, solo artists who come together every once in a while to like, for the fans, let's do another one.
Yeah.
I have a different hypothesis, Benny.
But real quick, I'm just saying, I think that decision, right? It translates into the music. It is a group-minded effort in every sense. It is such a collaborative. Every album of theirs is so clearly not one ego meets another ego, and they're trying to outdo each other. They're never trying to outdo each other. It's such a group effort. And songs like Din and It, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're like the same. They're fingers on the same hand almost. You know what I mean? Din and It, yo, hey.
I was gonna say that's the one out. That's the one
yo,
song of this whole
hey,
album where it's like it is more feel good and like sort of like
right
uppity. Yeah.
But the tones, if you listen to the tones, they're all minor dissonant jazz.
Sure, yeah, sure.
Sorry, what's your alternate hypothesis, Gary?
I think it's simply that they don't feel like making music unless it's with one another. I think it's just that's what they share. This they save their inspiration. They probably don't make music when they don't feel like it, and when they do feel like it, it's freaking amazing, right? The magic comes together when it connects, but that's hard to do, right? That happens like a lot of things have to coincide to get the three guys in a room to at the same time when they're all inspired to make something like this happen. Clearly, with Stakes is High, that happened. That coincided, and we get something like this. I think that it's when you have that kind of magic, I think going out on your own and trying to recreate it, especially if you're not like, I must add more music to the world right now. If you're not Cool Keith, then there's no urgency. It's not therapy for you. You're not trying to just put shit out. They could wait for the next time that there is a lunar eclipse, and all of that shit coincides, and they could get together in a room and do it. Fine. Yeah. We are better off. You're right.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
And they feed off each other. Like that's the whole thing. They feed off each other's talent.
100%. When you say Din and It, I can't stop nodding my head even thinking about that song.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, that song, man. Just that's let's go down that list, right? You got Din and It, such a dope song, two brothers feeding off of each other, bouncing back and forth in the chorus, right? You got possibly one of the greatest story verses ever on Better Listen. Pas's verse on Better Listen. We was at some outside jam one Saturday night when this pretty ass girl got locked in my sight. She was a ghetto philosopher. Yeah, you know the type thinking, yo, that.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's how he raps. He raps like that dude that's in the corner dropping knowledge, and they're saying he's dropping knowledge about like a girl that walks in that everyone's like, oh. You know?
That's another verse that's going on in the back of my head on loop my whole life. So could we go? Let's go through that verse, okay?
Yeah,
we was at some outside jam one Saturday night when this pretty ass girl got locked in my sight. She was a ghetto philosopher. You know the type. Thinking Mary J and Sade understood her strife. Caught me looking. Yo, what's cooking? Nothing from around here. So don't approach. I hope to be the man of the year. I said, listen, dear, or rabbit, or whatever the hell you be. I'm not the one to embarrass, but the one to MC. Dion, are you still on it? Because that's one part I'm go.
I travel the world quarters in my relationships, used and abused by whole soul for my royalty. Yeah.
And above all, I brought my daughter into this earth, so I understand the woman's needed feeling of worth. Look deep into my eyes and said, "Oh shit, you're ill. I love the way your mind moves around that will, but still, let me apologize for sounding so sassy, but N-words." Act as if my ass has a sign that says harass me. Her name was Gail from the Union of Dale.
Yeah, I love that. I made her remove the shades so her eyes could tell me the
reveal,
plan. Yo, where's your man?
Right. Yo, that N-word's past tense. Painted bruises on my face. Haven't seen him ever since. Gave a pinch to my bottom and started rubbing my back. She said, I bet your ass is darker than a Mob Deep track. only one way to know it, and I was bound to show it. So we jetted to my crib. She said, I own thoughts of you since that song Meanie Meanie. I can't believe you're about to be all up in between me. Yo, bro.
It's
chills.
vivid. It's like vivid.
Listen, this is what separates Pasta Noose from everybody. How many songs have you heard? Yo, I was at a club. I saw this girl. I was into her. I macked it and went home and we hooked up, right? And like with a few.
There's some excellent songs on that very concept. Some of the very best songs in hip hop from this era, right? Like Biggie had a great one. I got a story to tell, right? Starts off the same way, 100%. Right? But like, and that's like. Another masterpiece, but this was a masterpiece, right? He caught us with the right combination, a good combination.
Yo,
here's another thing about
so
like
good.
One thing that he does on this that a lot of these other story songs have it. Let's face it. He's very respectful towards women.
Yes.
Like just the fact that the acts as if my ass has a sign that says harass me. Just the fact that you're bringing that up, it's like, yo, he's like pointing out that it's a problem. There's some people that like sort of talk out of pocket when it comes to women like that. I mean, I think our friends down in Texas may need to hear this track a little bit more, but it's neither here nor there. But to be able to have this like story about going to a party and seeing a girl that he's physically attracted to and trying to kick game and like sort of getting rejected, but then later on like sealing the deal, and to do all of that in 1996 hip hop without, I mean, I'm obviously not a woman, so I can't speak to how offensive it is, but I didn't see anything offensive about this. In fact, I saw a lot of things that were sort of empowering about it.
I think it simplified the mindset of women, I think, a bit much, but it's also a guy telling a story to a bunch of other guys about how he hooked up. It's a hookup story, right? So
he's not just saying that she's pretty, right? He's also saying she was a ghetto philosopher, the type to think that Mary J and Sade understood her strife, like saying she's deeper than that. The
respect that's there, like it's just like it's not. You don't really get.
But you know how I know it was. You know how I know though that it was not a real that the story was just a made up story. It's because she had thoughts of him since Meanie Meanie. And Meanie Meanie is not the song that you get hot about. It's not the hot song. It's not the I'm hot for this guy.
Buddy
song.
is
Meanie,
about...
Meanie, 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 Meanie. Say what? Meanie, Meanie,
I mean, that
Meanie,
song is about... It's about hooking up, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It is somewhat relevant. And I think it is a made up story. But how about I bet your ass is darker than a Mob Deep track?
Yeah.
Bro, that metaphor? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. This woman that he met at the club must have had, the body of Jennifer Lopez and the mind of Ben Lander,
Oh my god, that sounds scary.
Would you agree one of the greatest story verses of all time? Like unparalleled in terms of its uniqueness. There's a you know what? Far Side has a song from Lab Cabin, California, where it's similar, Fat Lip kind of, but it's one of the best ever. One of the best ever.
It's fucking dope.
Yeah. Dion, what am I missing? Hit me with it. I know you got some shit you want to talk about.
I couple of pause lines that always stick. Like you earlier, Ben, you said like you had some lines that always stuck with you since you started listening to this. There's two on this album that I've always loved. One is from the intro. It's like just one bar where he goes, "De La Soul's here to stay," like racism, like the way he says that, and like every time I hear that line, like it stuck to my head. I'm like, God, ain't that the fucking truth, man? All them shit's still kicking. De La racism in America, like it's all that shit's still kicking. This is written 25 years ago, and it's still absolutely true. And then now we can actually transition into the title track, "Stakes is High," which is one of my favorite hip hop songs too.
Produced by the almighty J.
Produced by Dilla, exactly, which I did not know until yesterday, basically.
Shit.
But the line "gun control means using both hands in my land." I fucking love that line, and it's a funny story too, because I remember when I first heard this album, my boy Brent. I remember telling him, he's like, "Yo, did you hear that De La track? Like there's a song. This is the line. Gun control means using both hands in my land." For some reason, I never forget this. He thought that I said that my aunt had said that, and I was like, no, it's a De La song. So like we were laughing about it. I'm picturing my then like middle-aged Guyanese aunt, like who's very soft-spoken and everything, just being like, "Oh yeah, gun control means using both lands in my land." And I'm like, yo, no, she ain't that hardcore. That has nothing to do with the lyric. I just thought that was like a funny little story. But that's part of why like that line stuck with me. It's just like thinking of that like sort of funny kind of conversation I had with Brent, but also like just the line itself. It's just like, and especially for rappers who, like we talked about, aren't known for being like hard or gangster or violent or anything like that. But it's like, Strong Island. I got got to use a gun.
Yeah, look, the song is about drug addiction and like living in like public housing and not being able to get out of it. It talks about experiments with severity and the skin connect. No wonder where we live is called the projects.
Yeah.
Love that track.
What else you got, D?
Early Mos Def. Let's talk about that.
Might be so. He was in a group before this that I think they had some things popping off in Brooklyn, but never. They were not. They were by and large an underground thing.
This was effectively his first. I mean,
this was his intro to the world.
Yeah, exactly. He had a Universal Magnetic, which is a dope song. Right. But and that came out I think the year prior. Oh, actually no. Sorry, let me take that back. Universal Magnetic, which was his first single, came out a year after this. So yeah, Ben, you're right. This truly was his intro to the world. He'd only been kicking around since like '94. So yeah, it's been about 2 years. But yeah, no, he's fucking sick. Like they gave him the reins to this song. Basically, it's dope. How old would he have been in '96? Let's see. Because
he had to have. I think he was probably like 19 or something like that.
To give the keys, he was about 23 years old. Okay. But to give this kid the first few bars in the song, then then another two after everyone comes in, it's like, yo, you have some trust in this kid. And you pretty much knew what he was about to be. I love it, man. I love that track. I also once again, it's just a testament to me not listening to this album over the years. Like I used to listen to it a lot when I was a kid, heavy rotation when I was younger. But I haven't listened to it in a while, so I forgot that Mos Def was even on this. Probably because Mos Def wasn't really on my radar when I was first listening to this album until like a few years later when Black Star came out.
And Big Brother Beat is that whole song is it's such a good energy. That's a party number. You know what I mean? Check it out. You don't stop. Got the Big Brother Beat. You don't. Yeah, so good. Unbelievable song. And you could hear Mos Def didn't become the mighty Mos Def yet. You know what I mean? He wasn't in the form that he was on Black on Both Sides, which we have to do that album, like fucking masterpiece of an album. But you could hear the beginnings of that. The next song after that, Down Syndrome, is fucking crazy. That's, just Dave and Paz going back and forth. Unplugged, one of a kind. That's when he's doing that old school shit. Where is it? I just had it up. I'm plug one of a kind for your peeps' delight and for your sucker MCs. Step to your knees. I love that shit.
And they realize they sample part of their own song early in this album on the business. At the end of the business, they literally sampled something for Down syndrome.
Yeah, it's like the verse that I'm about to read. They like just put that one piece in to be like, yo, this is coming up, so pay attention.
Yeah, exactly.
And he goes, let me tell you something about the self. Tell him, self. I be a piece of the East Coast, so give a toast to Plug Wonder Why, who back in the day soaked his words in ginger. So when I ran a phrase in June, you didn't catch it till December. I'm a member of the kids from the inner city giving you kiddies audible treats. You be aching for more money than a pagan holiday. Not from the PJs, yet I still got something to say. Oh, God. He's so good.
Who expected that to sound that way? Who expected that verse to flow that way? Nobody.
Yeah. He's so left field with his flow, bro.
Who was rhyming there?
That was Pasta News. Plug one. It's so easy. That's hot this year. That's all Dave, and he just murders that shit. The whole song is so dope.
The video's dope too. I just watched it again for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Just like an hour before we started recording today.
Yeah.
It's fucking sick.
Great
like
video.
The school classroom setting. I think Q-Tip's in it. I think, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is dope.
Let's fucking talk about baby, ooh, baby, baby, ooh, baby.
Oh my
Can
God.
we talk about that?
I still don't
Because
understand.
this was
what is the story with this? Why did they include this shit?
This was them, right? This was them kind of saying, in my opinion, this is my theory on this. This was them saying, yo, all of you fucking R&B songs with the rapper coming in for a quick verse, like, it's not impressive. Look, we could do it too. You know what I mean?
They came up with the wackest R&B song.
Yo, and then like the lyrics, because I think it's like kind of poking fun at En Vogue and, you know, maybe not TLC, but like this
SWV and
right,
shit
like very surface level R&B from the 90s,
for the record,
right?
I fucking loved. Like
I
that shit
love
was
it too.
dope, man.
And
like,
I love this
I actually
song.
miss
They
it.
make
A
great
total
radio
song,
hits.
What?
Those songs, that genre was great for radio hits, and I was listening to a lot of radio at the time.
Fantastic for
They sounded
radio hits,
great.
man. I miss R&B like that. Like I was listening to it, like like ESPN radio, like when any radio, whenever they come back in for commercial breaks, they always have they have they can play a few seconds of songs, or whatever. And the other day there was they came back in with a Total song. I was like, oh shit, I haven't heard Total in so long, man. I missed that shit. So we're not knocking it, but like it's like.
But this is very much poking fun at how surface level it is, right? Because the lyrics are hilarious in the song part. You remind me when I reminisce of you, all the freaky things I want to do to you.
I know, and the way her voice goes, like it's definitely like exaggerating, making fun.
Rub me up, rub me down, rub me all around, kiss me here, kiss me there, kiss me everywhere. Just like, yo, it's like clowning on these people.
But then even
the chorus,
lyrics.
the chorus, baby, baby, won't you be my baby, baby? It's like.
And then it keeps going. Baby.
To me, this is like Pos being Mace. You know how did Mace do that song with Mariah Carey?
I mean,
What was
Busta
that
did.
song?
I mean, who didn't do a song with Mariah Carey? What are you talking about?
Anyway, this is like
Regrets.
Pos being that shiny suit rapper.
Oh, regret. Wait, hold on, Gary. You just say someone would regret doing a song with Mariah Carey?
No, I'm saying I didn't do a song with Mariah Carey.
I was gonna say because Mariah's
But-
another one.
Yo, this is like Pos saying, yeah, I could do that shit with my eyes closed, right? Now I forgot how to forget, so I'll remember your face with your pretty accent, wearing men a track scent. Others faking constantly, sticking pockets of dream, always trying to sham shit. That's why they crave champagne. Like he's just like doing, he's like doing that. Come on in an R&B verse, come in quick, and like flex a little and come out. Like he's just like, I could do it too, bro.
But even,
we
like,
just choose not to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And like there's these two bars that I put down in the air. It's like it does that you would never again want to be his wife. So we connect lips to hips and eyes to thighs. He's describing a 69, but in this like really like artistic kind of way. Like it's amazing. We connect lips to hips and eyes to thighs. That's such a unique way of describing a 69. so even in this song where like you say it may very well be like sort of like poking fun of like the R&B hip hop mix. they're still like, no, my bars are still gonna be dope on this. Like, I'm still gonna have lines that are gonna make you think, and like, you know, even though we're talking about like, you know, some, you know, sexual energy stuff, like, you know, this still sounds great. Like, it's like almost coded, but like, I don't know. I thought that was cool.
And then you got their version, right? And then you're like, let's do our version of what that sounds like with the song with Sade.
Yeah.
I never get
Jeanne.
That's not Sade?
Jeanne was, if you remember the song "It's a Party" by Busta Rhymes. It's a
coming
party,
through with Jeanne
let's get it
every
on
single
tonight.
day.
I never fucking realized that.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeanne, you're right.
Jeanne, yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah. So '96 was a very big year for Jeanne because that was also the year of the coming, which "It's a Party" was. "It's a Party" was actually the B-side for Woo-Ha, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Because I remember I had to sing before I got the coming. I had to single for Woo-Ha, and the B-side was "It's a Party." So that's how I knew that.
I must say that's
right?
fire.
Unless it's another song.
That's very strong fire.
Yeah. It may have been another singles B-side, but it was definitely a B-side to one of the coming songs. But yeah, no, that was Jeanne. We Busta Rhymes with Jeanne each and every day. We gonna come around your way and do it our way.
Word is bond.
So I mean, dude, look at this track list. I'm sure we're gonna miss out on talking about one of these songs, right? Like, we can't just dissect every one of them. Breaks, right? The homage to Curtis Blow. That song came out in 1980, and this is like, all right, let's do the breaks in 96, right? Instead of like, you know, the shit that Curtis Blow was talking about, your boyfriend made you a carrier of HIV. That's the breaks. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
do such a good. I mean, they reference they. I think they consider themselves the almost like Biz Markie did. Like the stewards of hip hop culture. They felt totally comfortable referencing also, back to KRS-One, back to like important points in hip hop, right? And this update was awesome. This is one of my favorite tracks on this album. Expecting nothing but a little bit of radio play, getting diced on 1 and 2s by the best DJs. Hey, time was kind of tight, but still I dotted on the line. And some expected me to start ballooning in the mind, balloon mind state reference, seeing spaces and places that I couldn't pronounce. But still, I had the pulleys to make all the bullies bounce. I mean, with the blessing of the great, we took it from state to state because we landed on our good foot and got our biggest break. That's amazing.
These all the breaks. Yo, so good. So good. Perfect album. Do you guys, because I can't find a flaw. Is there anything that you could pick apart and say, this was a misstep, or this track had something in it that I didn't like?
No. Even the one thing that like albums like this that have intros, like usually the intro, a lot of times they're great, but they're just intros, they're skits or whatever. This time it's like the intro itself was great, like When I First Heard, Criminal Minded, whatever.
Yo,
but then they get into it, but then it's there's bars in it. Like there's actually fucking
bars in the intro, and they choose that their intro isn't about them.
Mm-hmm.
Their intro is like, yo, let's talk about KRS-One.
Their intro is about the culture. Their intro is about what they think is
Yeah.
important in the culture. And you know what? They see that. 20 years later, I listened to that album for the first time. It took me 20 years. And by the way, they recommended one of my favorite, pieces of music of all time that, I had a treat waiting for me 20 years down the line.
That's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. Fuck, man. I don't want to go on too long because I feel like we really hammered home this is an important album, man, because it re-solidified De La's roots, right? Like, so like they were by and large being forgotten, but I think this kind of firmly planted them and cemented them in the conversation of hip hop legends, right? And is it sad that for the past however long since the streaming era came about, that really you could, I said this in our brief little episode we did about the big news, new hip hop fans, right? I think most of them probably aren't being introduced to De La, because how do you introduce someone to music these days? You say, open your Spotify and stream this album, right? So they have to have an old head like me saying, hey, I'll Dropbox you the MP3s.
I mean, you can still buy the CDs technically, right?
Maybe they're out of. I don't think they're still really printing them, but you could probably find it on Amazon. But who's doing that?
Yeah.
Who's doing that? Nobody's going out and buying. You know what I mean? So
It's a shame.
It's a shame, but I think that's going to change, right? So hopefully we'll put this episode out in conjunction with the release of their catalog, which they said should be coming in by the end of 2021, right? And I really hope we get through most of their releases, because like I said, they're such a crazy track record. Good, great album, one after another. But this album is just perfect. It's special. It's unique. It nothing else sounds like it. Nothing else sounds like them rapping. It's just everything. It's such a piece of my life. I love this shit. That's my last licks. So, you know, take it away, whoever wants to.
Same thing. I feel like it's funny. And it's the reason we pick all these albums. They are albums that we all love, but you know, just having this on the background. I mean, we did pivot. Obviously, we were going to do a different album, but we decided to do this one. But so I really ramped up the intensity of when I'm listening, like, you know, when I'm finishing up work and on weekdays or whatever. And I just generally had this sense of just like reminiscence. It's just like when I'm listening to this track, this album, I'm like, oh man, this used to be heavy in my rotation, and like it's bringing up like old memories, like old positive memories too.
Wouldn't you say that the only reason it's not in your rotation is because how do we listen to music?
Exactly.
We stream it.
That's exactly right. You're right. That's that. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. Like if this was readily available on the streaming platforms, and part of it, like, it's kind of a cop out on all our parts, right? Like, could we find a way to listen to these tracks not on streaming if we put in a little bit of effort? Sure. Of course we can. But it's that little bit of effort that's different than what we're used to. Like, you know, it can kind of throw you off, and I think that's partly why. Again, not making excuses. But you know, hoping that now that, you know, these albums are streaming, that like not just us but other people will be able to take a listen as well, because like this is some shit that needs to be out in the. I mean, it is out in the world, but it needs to be like re-put out in the world to remind people. It's like, yo, like, know your history, because De La is certainly like important hip hop history.
Hell yeah.
D, I think you carry, like, I don't know if you carry a hard drive with you anymore. Benny, like, I wouldn't be surprised if you do. You cared about your hard drive.
Oh, it's on my phone.
Yeah, like, so
it's been on my phone, this album.
Right. So it's on your phone, right? And if you live life like a lot of people do, like I do, like where, you know, I want to be able to respawn, right, without losing any shit, right? So all of my stuff is in the cloud, right? If I drop my phone right down, you know, the void of space, like,
I could chuck it off the Empire State Building. I still got all my shit.
You know, it'd take me about half an hour to restore and be back. So it does make a difference about, you know, where the music is available. It's I don't know, I have my view of that not being available is the tone of Stakes is High. I have a dim view of that, dark, not good feelings about it, but I'm glad it's coming back.
Oh, well, thank you guys for listening. You know, if you haven't figured it out already, if you haven't heard this album, please put it on. It's available now on streaming. Listen to it. Listen to it again, and then listen to it again, and I think you'll probably agree with everything we just said. I want to thank you for listening. Check out raplizards.com. It's cool. You should go there, man. If you dig this stuff and you feel, you know, like this is a show you want to keep seeing, it would be very, very helpful to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening. And if you're on YouTube, if you click like, it actually helps us tremendously. Helps other people find us, so we would appreciate that, and we thank you very much for that. And that being said, I want to thank Red Walrus, our friend. He's an incredible artist who you can find on Bandcamp, and if you download his shit, you'd be supporting a really dope independent artist. And all of the interlude, intro music, outro music, that's all Red Walrus. He's the fucking man. Thank you, Fred. I want to thank Nate, our producer. Fucking man, you know, he put the website together. He really helps keep this thing moving. And I just want to say that, you know, this has been really cool. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Stop the recording.